You know, a private jet is a luxury that only a few people will experience. But should great luxury come with great climate responsibility? Check out this report published last year from transportenvironment.org. It found that private jets pollute 5 to 14 times more per passenger than commercial planes and 50 times more than trains. The organization also says that a private jet can emit about 2 metric tons of CO2 per hour. A person living in the European Union produces 8 metric tons of carbon dioxide in a year. Last week, a marketing agency out of the UK analyzed private jet flight data of some celebrities. They used data from a Twitter account @CelebJets. To be clear, this analysis is not conclusive. We don't know if these celebrities were aboard all the recorded flights, and that may be why at least 2 of them have publicly disputed the list. But the analysis determines that their jets are being used quite a bit. The study pegged the biggest polluting jet to Taylor Swift. Number 2 is Drake, 3rd Floyd Mayweather. Also on the list, Kim Kardashian, A-Rod, Steven Spielberg. Taylor Swift and Jay-Z, who is 4th, have claimed this list does not accurately show their jet usage. A spokesperson for Ms. Swift says her jet is, quote, loaned out regularly to other individuals, unquote. That would suggest the data might not accurately reflect how much she uses the jet herself. Drake weighed in on his flight usage too. @Real Toronto News claimed the singer took a 14-minute flight. Drake commented on that post, saying nobody was aboard it, and that it was actually the plane being moved to another airport. Joining us now is Dr. Puneet Dwivedi, an associate professor of sustainability sciences at the University of Georgia's Warnell School of Forestry and Natural Resources. Professor, welcome. Good to have you with us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate that.
First of all, what do you make of these findings from this study?
So I think if we see overall the structure of aviation industry, we are consuming close to 98 billion gallons of jet fuel each year just on commercial airlines. Out of that, US alone consumes almost 20-25% of the total fuel. That comes out to be almost 20 billion gallons. And out of that, private jets are only consuming less than 1 or 2%. Unfortunately, as you mentioned in the beginning, the per capita emission on these private jets is way higher than per capita emissions if somebody is flying a commercial. And that is a cause of concern because somebody like all these celebrities that are flying in, they are almost emitting 2 metric tons of CO2 per hour, depending upon the plane and a lot of other variables. And as you mentioned, Europeans just emit 8 tons in a year. So if they fly 4 hours, they are covering all the emissions in a year for the average European citizen. But also for US, we emit almost 16 tons of CO2 a year. So for these celebrities, if they're using their jet for more than 8 hours, which is not a problem for flying individuals, I think that's a big cause of concern, especially climate is happening right now.
I wonder how we should view this private jet usage compared to some of the larger issues with our overall use of fuel in flights. I mean, there are certain people, as you know, obviously, as much as we need to save the environment, there are certain people who need to fly separately for their safety. I don't want the president flying commercial. We need Air Force One. So how much of this is a larger issue with just air travel in general, as opposed to this particular subset of air travel?
I think overall, if you're flying in a big commercial airline with so many people around you and safety is, you're just common citizen, you're not a VIP or you do not have any safety concerns in general, then your per capita emission will be way lower if you're flying privately. And that is the cost to environment because, as you know, more and more private jets are flying and people are taking private jets even for short duration of flight. And that adds up little by little in terms of per capita emission, and eventually it becomes a huge impact on environment where people are emitting worth of 1 year of emission for a citizen in just 6-7 hours or 8 hours max. And that we have to be really careful about because overall aviation industry is contributing 3%, 3.5% of overall global warming. And we need to reduce that number as much as we can in order to avoid climate change.
Are there ways to make these kinds of flights more efficient or more eco-friendly? Kylie Jenner was kind of at the center of this controversy before this list came out. She was labeled as a climate criminal by some people for taking a 17-minute private flight from Camarillo to Van Nuys in California. That's kind of northwest of Los Angeles. We Google mapped it. It could be less than an hour by car or way more than an hour, depending on traffic in Southern California. But are there ways, if, say, the flight had to happen for security reasons or whatever, are there ways to make a flight like that more efficient on fuel by using it differently, you know, structuring it differently, or is there just no way to make this more efficient?
No, definitely. I'm glad that you're asking question because there are a lot of ways we can definitely reduce the environmental impacts of these private jets. The first one is basically go for a smaller plane or go for a plane which has much more efficient engine, which is always a technological solution. And already industry is pretty fast forward in terms of adopting better engine technology so as to increase the efficiencies of all these engines where they can fly more on per gallon of fuel. But at the same time, I think that solution will go to some degree, but majority of the focus should be on how to displace all the jet fuel, which is coming mostly out of fossilized petroleum, with sustainable aviation fuel, which is made by growing different oilseed crops in this country itself. For example, I'm a part of a big project which was funded by USDA, National Institute of Food and Agriculture, looking into the fact that how we can use an oilseed crop, which is known as carinata, to make sure that we are growing that crop in US South, getting all the seeds when we harvest in May and June, crushing those seeds to get oil, and then refining that oil to produce aviation fuel, which can definitely replace all the petroleum-based jet fuel that we are using, not only in commercial airlines, but also in private jets. And I think that is definitely a way to go in order to eliminate or at least mitigate significant amount of carbon emissions that come out of because of our use of private planes or our use of commercial planes.
That's fascinating, being able to grow jet fuel. I would love to, we're out of time now, but I would love to talk further about that because that sounds like very interesting science. University of Georgia Assistant Professor Puneet Dwivedi, I appreciate you talking this through with us tonight. Thank you very much.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.